Venom is the newest film produced by Sony and created by Marvel Studios, and is the story of Eddie Brock, portrayed by Tom Hardy, who is a journalist and investigation type, and he starts investigating a company that's dedicated to helping humanity, either cure cancer, go into space, what have you. And he starts digging into the background of Riz Ahmed, who's the leader of this company, but once digging into the company, he encounters this little symbiote creature that introduces itself as Venom, and we have our movie. Honestly, that's the baseline of what I can say about Venom without going into spoiler territory, but at the end of the day, guys, really, Venom, it didn't really surprise me all that much. And by that, I mean Venom was extremely mediocre, at least in my opinion. Now, did it have some really enjoyable elements to it? Of course it did. For number one, Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy, how great is this guy? He's such a good actor, no matter what he's in. Even if he's in a really bad film, it doesn't matter. He's just so great and so talented that every little mannerism that he gave Eddie Brock in this movie, I 100% believed and I was on board with. And his relationship, Eddie Brock's relationship with Venom, the way it was written, I was completely invested from the beginning of till the end of the movie. The arc that their relationship actually takes was one of my favorite parts of the film, and I thought it was very well written. It was clever, it was funny, it was just overall well put together. And finally, as far as my positives go, the action scenes. The action scenes in here are brutal. They are fascinatingly entertaining to watch. And it's interesting to see that as far as a PG-13 Marvel film goes, this is probably the closest to a rated R amount of violence that you could get in a movie. Unfortunately, that does translate into some of the issues I have with the movie. Number one being the fact that I understand that this movie was rated PG-13, but I personally believe that it should have still been rated R. And one of the problems I have with the fact that as you're watching the movie, you can tell that Venom was originally shot and edited to be a rated R film, but it was busted back to PG-13. For instance, it's like when you watch a movie that premieres on TNT or FX and it's edited so all audiences can watch it. There are certain scenes where characters will curse. They'll either say the F-bomb or something that may be considered worse, except that word isn't in there and it's edited out, but you can still see the actors' lips moving and making the motion that they would make those words. And so that was just extremely choppy. Plus, during these violent, extremely violent action scenes, you obviously know that there should have been a blood splatter or brain matter that should have been thrown up on the screen, and it's just one of those things where it's so easily noticeable that it started to get on my nerves. Like, there are some movies that have done this in the past. Krampus was definitely one of them that irritated me the most. That horror Christmas movie that came out in 2015. It's just, I wish studios would make a decision of what they're going to make a movie and stick to it. Look, I understand that business decisions need to be made, and making Venom a PG-13 movie, I believe, is a good business decision to bring in more audience members. But the film should have been rated R. And I'm just hoping that the studio will realize when they create a sequel for this, because they've obviously made enough money to warrant a sequel to Venom, and I want to see a sequel to Venom. I want them to make it rated R, because I have a feeling the direction that I see they're going with this film and with this possible franchise, it should be going in a rated R direction. Also, along with Tom Hardy being so great in this film, it's unfortunate to see that everybody around him is not really caring that much about the source material, or not caring that much about the material in general. And what I mean is that while Tom Hardy, the guy gives it 110%, and he is so good in this movie that I cannot see anybody else playing Eddie Brock. But I mean, Riz Ahmed, Michelle Williams, everybody else that is in this movie, they all feel like they're kind of just reading lines off of a teleprompter. It doesn't necessarily feel like they are giving it their all. Their characters I didn't really buy into. Riz Ahmed as a villain, he was completely bland. In fact, I would say that he's probably the most bland villain that the Marvel world in films has ever had. And I know some people might say he had a purpose in the movie and the blandness was there to serve that purpose. But me, I don't really buy it. Considering what direction this character goes throughout the course of the film Venom, I felt as though Riz Ahmed, he should have been given better material. And as far as what I thought the worst part of the film was, that's the relationship between Tom Hardy and Michelle Williams. I didn't buy it one bit. The fact is, when it comes to the relationship they had, at the very beginning, they try to establish that these two have great chemistry and have had a loving and fantastic relationship for a long time. But it doesn't come across that way. It comes across as two people who are in a relationship trying to make the best of it, but they know it's just going to collapse eventually. In fact, I don't even think I bought the fact that these two people would ever have ended up together, that they would have ever been in a relationship. Because although this may not